Today we're going to talk about styles in InDesign. Styles are a really crucial thing to understand in order to create good document design. In order to talk about styles, I've created a sample resume and I have styled it. And we can see that we have different types of fonts and sizes and styles throughout this entire document. The first thing you need to understand is how to open up the dialog box called Paragraph Styles. There are several ways to do this. You can get to that under Type, and here it is, Paragraph Styles. You can also get to it by hitting the F11 key. You can also get to it under Window, Type and Tables, Paragraph Styles. As you can see, I have already created a bunch of different styles in this document. If I use the text tool and click somewhere in the document, I clicked up here in the header, and you'll notice that the header 1 called name is highlighted. That's the style that's applied to this text. If I click underneath in the contact information, you'll notice that it switches down to a style I created called contact info, which is centered and italicized. If I click here, there's a different style called profile text. If I click here, you can see that this text has a style applied to it called header 2 for section heads. Now, once I decided that the title of this resume, my name, was supposed to be 24-point bold and centered up at the top, I could have just gone over here and clicked Times New Roman bold 24 points and changed it manually. The advantage to creating a style is that styles allow you to automatically update all the text in the document to which that style is applied. For example, this header 2, the section head, needs to be the same formatting as the second section head and the same formatting as the third and the fourth section head. If I want to modify that style, I can come over here to header 2 and I can double click on it. That opens up this options dialog box for paragraph styles. There's all sorts of options that you can change here. You can change the basic character formats. For example, if I decide that I want all of my header 2s to actually be 30-point text instead of 16-point text, I can do that. And if I click the preview box down here, then I can see what that would actually look like. That's a little bit too big. Let's say I wanted it to be 18-point text or 10-point text. It automatically updates all the section heads according to whatever I have put in the box over here. The font family allows me to change the font in any way that I like. I'll change it back to Times New Roman, which is what it was before, so that it matches the others. Here you can change the font style, bold, italic, or let's say we want bold italic. And here you can change the size. Let's say that I want it to be 16 points, but 16-point text doesn't appear on my menu. We only go from 14 to 18. In that case, you can actually type in 16-point text, and InDesign will make that happen. Here you can control your kerning if you want to select two different characters and control the space between them. You can also control your tracking if you want to change the spacing between the letters. Notice what happens as I change the tracking on those headers. We'll go back to 0. And you can change case as well. A useful one on resumes is small caps, which means that the lowercase letters change into small versions of uppercase letters That can look pretty professional. And we'll go back to bold to maximize the ethos on that. If we click up in this paragraph and see that we have the profile text style, we can edit that one. And this is a good one to show us how we can change indents and spacing. Notice that if we change the alignment from left to center or to right aligned, we can get different types of looks for that paragraph. Notice we can also choose various justified versions. If we do left justify, that means that the left margin will be flush with, in this case, our tab, and our right margin will also be flush with our right tab. The difference between left justify and full justify is that left justify takes that last sentence in the paragraph and allows it to go only halfway across, whereas full justify spreads out all of the letters equally from left to right margin. Here also you can change the indent. You can change the first line indent. Notice that if I change this to 0.2 inches, for example, I get an automatic indent on my first line. You can also change the left indent. Here we've got 1/4 inch, which is why I've got that space there. Right indent. We can also change things called space before and space after. This is most useful if we look at a style like the one I created for the job descriptions. Here you can see that if we adjust the space before to something larger, like 0.2, we get a lot more space on top of, above each one of these lines every time it occurs. And space after is the same basic idea. If we cut that down to 0, now there's no space after these. This is a great way to control the way that blocks of text sort into chunks. This was better and more natural when these lines aligned much closer to the headings, so we'll need to reduce the space before and increase the space after to make this look better. Something like that. Notice that up here, these chunks of text for the colleges are a little bit too close together, I think. So I'm going to take that degree style and increase the space before in order to chunk that text a little bit better. One other thing you can do with styles is bulleted or numbered lists. I've created a style for this bulleted list, and the bullets and numbering options are down here on this menu. Here you can change from bullets to numbers. You can also change the type of bullet that you have. There's only a few default options. I think this bullet is a little bit small. I'd like something bigger, so I can add a different character from any of my font families and use that as my bullet. So this one looks a little bit bigger. So if we switch over to that, I think that's going to improve the look of our bulleted list. We can also change the alignment and the indents here. The left indent changes where the bullets actually are, and the tab position changes how far away from the bullet the text is. One last thing you can change is character color. So if you want to change your style so that the characters are magenta, you can do that under character color. I think we'll skip that. One important thing to remember about styles is that you only change the style if you change it off of the paragraph styles dialog over here by double clicking on the style name. You can also change things individually for parts of your text by, say, using these controls up here. So I just changed that to bold italic. Notice what happens to my style in the list. I now have this plus sign after it, and that's called an override. I have overridden the rules for that style by telling it that this particular text needs to be bold italic. That can be useful, but it can also be dangerous. If you want to get back to the original style, you can alt-click on this to clear those overrides. You can also click this, and those overrides will go away, and we'll get back to the original bulleted list. Another thing you can do, we'll undo that. If you want to keep that that formatting, is you can actually create a new style, and then it will have these attributes. We put it underneath it. It's called paragraph style 1, and if we rename it, then we can call it bulleted list bold italic if you want. We'll go ahead and undo that. There are times when you are going to want different types of formatting on the same line. These paragraph styles apply to entire paragraphs. So it's going to apply to this whole block of text, or say this whole line. But say that you want the name of the job to stand out more and the rest of this information to be less prominent. You can create a character style. This is same as paragraph styles, except that they operate on a level smaller than the entire paragraph. Note that I have not created any character styles yet, so I'll click down here to create a new one, and we'll call this employer. If I double click, I can pull up options. Not quite as many options, but most of the same ones. We'll say the key is that we want this to be italic and not bold. Preview that and go ahead and hit OK. Now, if we want to apply that style that we've just created to the others here, all we have to do is select the text and then click on employer and click to apply the style. While we're talking about these lines of text here, I'll show you a really neat trick that does not have to do with styles. Sometimes it's really nice in a resume to be able to take something and put it all the way over to the right margin, like the year that you were at a particular job, while keeping everything over here aligned the way it is. You could do this by hitting the space bar a bunch of times or the tab key and hoping that you can line things up right, but very frequently they won't line up quite right. If you go to Type, Insert Special Character, Other, Right Indent Tab, and you can also do this by hitting Shift and Tab at the same time. The Right Indent Tab inserts a tab character so that everything to the left of the tab stays exactly where it was, but everything to the right of the tab suddenly becomes aligned to the right margin. This can be really nice for formatting your resume. Now you can change this text however you want, and this won't move over here. This will stay where it is. Again, you can do this by hitting Shift Tab, and then we can put all of our years over to the right, which can be a really good look for a resume. You could do the same if you wanted, for your years up here. Just hitting Shift Tab, and you might want to make sure that those years are also in the same character style for consistency. One quick note about paragraph styles. You can build a series of paragraph styles so that they cascade. In other words, you can make certain styles based on other styles. And then if you update the base style, those changes that you made will cascade throughout the other styles that are based on that one. Cascading styles are very powerful, but they can also be very, very tricky, especially to plan out in advance. I've based all these styles on basic paragraph. You could choose any other style to base it on, or no style at all if you wanted. But the nice thing about basing everything on basic paragraph is that you can then go and modify the basic paragraph style, and whatever changes you make here will apply to the entire document. So let's say we don't want the entire document to be in the Times New Roman font family. We actually want it to be in something like Garamond. You change the basic paragraph style to Garamond, and all the other styles which are based on it also change to Garamond. You can make any changes here that are not overridden. So we can change the basic font size to 14. Notice that the size of our title did not change because we specified the size of that style in the style definition. But for any other style where we did not specify the size, it's now 14. We'll go back to 12 because I think that's going to work much better for us. This concludes our brief look at styles in InDesign.